So I think it shouldn't be frowned upon to want your partner to add something to your life. It's very unattractive, you know? Hello everyone, and welcome back to the 10th episode of Lena Rants with me, Lena Laraki. Today I'm going to be talking about the 10 myths about love and relationships. But before I start, I wanted to make a small disclaimer. Now, today's episode is a very much an opinion episode. It is coming from my perspective, my experience, and my observation of other people. I'm not trying to mandate my opinion on anyone, and I'm obviously not a certified life coach, nor am I a certified relationship advisor, and I'm obviously not a psychologist or anything of that such, and I don't think that I am. This is just for fun, and I just wanted to talk about what I think are the misconceptions about love and relationships. So with that, let's get into it. So the first misconception is love is blind. Now, I've heard this everywhere. I even watched the Love is Blind show on Netflix, but I actually don't think that is true. I think what could be blind is infatuation, because you don't really know the person. You have this idea of who they might be, but you don't actually know who that person really is, and so that could be blind. But I think that love is actually quite the opposite. I think love is all-seeing. It's a magnifying glass to the person that you love. You see their ugly side, you see their good side, you see them in their lowest, you see them at their highest, you see all their flaws and all their perks, and so you love them still no matter what. Now, that is not blind for sure. If anything, we sometimes try to, have a blind eye towards the negative things about the people that we love because we love them so much and we don't want to see their flaws, and so we pretend that we don't see them for the longest time. That's the first misconception. Love is not blind. The second myth is you are a half. Now, this kind of really annoys me, to be honest. When I was a teenage girl, I need my other half, I can't live without them, blah blah blah, all that stuff, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people still think that, and I'm not saying that in any way that's condescending or anything like that. All I want to say is that this misconception has come from a lot of movies that we've watched growing up, and this fantasy of what a relationship should be like and what love is like. But in real life, relationships are not like that. You are not a half, and I think that there's a lot of toxicity that comes with saying that you are a half, actually, because it kind of, subconsciously tells you that you're incomplete, you're broken, and that you need to be with someone so you could live happily. How could someone who's a half, who's broken, who needs someone else to fill their plate constantly, can be in a relationship that's healthy? I think saying that you're a half subconsciously stops you from sometimes, trying to pursue your own happiness because you're waiting on someone to show up and, complete you. Saying that you're a half encourages dependency on another person, and dependency creates toxicity, and that's unhealthy. I think a healthy relationship comes from two whole people who can come together and create an awesome life and can still be independent from one another and can still fill their own plates and make themselves happy and not really depend on each other for their happiness or their well-being or success or anything like that. All you need to do with a partner is to be a team and work together to achieve even greater things and to double the happiness in your life and to, decrease your sadness with someone by splitting it. You are not a half. You are whole. The third myth is that you can't be in a relationship with someone or you can't be loving someone when you want to benefit from the relationship. Now, I'm going to explain this a little bit further. Sometimes a lot of people think that if I say I want my partner to motivate me, I want them to be, positive, and if I'm not getting that, then I have the right to leave the relationship, and that is very much frowned upon by a lot of people, and I was one of those people, actually. I used to always think, if you love someone, you shouldn't want anything from them, you just should take them as they are. That is completely toxic and unhealthy. If you think about it from a different perspective, when you have friends, for example, you want those people to lift you up, you want those people to make you happier, you don't want drama, and so if someone causes you drama or they're not respectful or they don't add to your life, you just don't want to have them in your life. So I think it shouldn't be frowned upon to want your partner to add something to your life. What are you bringing to the table? Am I going to be filling your plate and just taking all of my energy to fill you up, and I am not getting anything in return? If you are stuck with someone who just drags you down basically and sucks your energy and is completely negative, then why would you want to be with that person? Having that perception of adding value through relationships to one's life should not be frowned upon. Or the fifth thing is that love is enough, or love is the only way that a relationship can work. Unfortunately, I also learned this the hard way, and I've seen it in other people as well. What makes a relationship work is not love. Like, love will eventually be less intense over time. What really makes a relationship work, in my opinion, 3 things: respect, communication, and trust. I think those 3 elements are pillars to a healthy, long-lasting relationship, along with a lot of things. The 6th myth about love and relationship is that you can only love one person in one certain way, or the way that you want someone to love you. There is a genius book that I will leave the link to down below. You can check it out and maybe even buy it, because I highly recommend it. It is called The 5 Love Languages. What are the 5 love languages? It's quality time, acts of service, words of affirmation, receiving gifts, and physical touch. Each person has a different priority of which love language that they prefer to be shown love. So for example, I took a quiz, which you can find as well online. My top 3 are words of affirmation, acts of service, and quality time. When you know what your love language is, and you know what your partner love language is, you love the other person the way they want to be loved, what their love languages are. So let's say I have words of affirmation, quality time, and acts of service. Another person would want to have, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch, for example. So I can't just be like telling them words of affirmation, appreciate it, but they wouldn't have the same effect as a physical touch, for example. And the same thing for me. If I receive gifts, yeah, that's nice, but I would rather have an act of service. Love your partner the way they want to be loved. If you want to hear more about this, also a podcast episode with Shetty that goes deeply into the 5 languages and explains it a lot better than I am explaining it, so I'm going to leave it down below as well so you can check it out. The 7th myth is a person will change for me, or I can change a person. And I feel like that is more common in girls than in guys, because of the movies that we watched growing up, you always see the good girl going for the popular bad guy, and like he changes for her and she changed him, and he stopped being like really bad for her. And so we all deep down really want that. We want to make someone change for the better for us, but we don't realize that when we took that person, we took them for who they are. We took them as they are, and we shouldn't want to change the person unless they want to change themselves. But saying that someone else can change for you, or you want to change a person, is a waste of your time, because eventually people's essence will always win over the change that they're forced to do to meet your expectations or to be with you in a relationship. The second thing is that it is not very healthy for the other person to feel like they have to alter who they are as a person to fit your category. You can just go and find someone who's already the way you want them to be, because obviously if it's something that's so huge for you and a deal breaker and you're trying to change someone for that, then maybe on the long run that might not really work. If you really want someone to quit smoking, for example, you either accept it or you try to help in a positive way and not mandate on them to quit smoking, or else you're gonna break up with them or not talk to them or whatever it is, because that's also very unhealthy and it kind of counteracts what you're trying to do. People shouldn't change for someone else, and you shouldn't waste your time trying to change someone else to fit in your relationship. The 8th myth, which is so important, is that your partner is your everything. And I definitely used to think that that was so romantic, and it could be romantic if it's not literally meant. When a person makes their significant other their everything, eventually not only does the relationship become toxic, but also it doesn't work out because it's very unattractive, Even if your significant other appreciates it at first, I feel like over time they're going to feel a little bit unattracted to you, and they might not know why at the beginning, but usually that is one of the main reasons. So as an advice to people who are younger than me and are in a relationship, or people who are my age or older and still think that they need to cancel their whole life, they don't talk to their friends as often, they're not there for their friends. I mean, I understand people have priorities, and there's nothing wrong with having your significant other and your family as your number one priority, but that doesn't mean that it's your number one priority that you don't have other priorities or you don't have other things in your life to look forward to. Because if you cut out all your friends or you don't talk to them as often, if you don't take care of your physical health, if you don't keep your interests and hobbies on the side, when you have nothing to do other than invest your entire self into that, it's not good for you. Because if the relationship ends, then you're going to be left with nothing, because your everything was your partner, and once that everything is gone, then you're left with nothing. You have not invested in a job, you have not invested in a hobby, you have not invested in relationships in your life, and not in yourself as well. So everything will literally feel like it's falling apart. But if you make sure that at least you do the base minimum of keeping in touch with friends, being there for them, working on yourself, working on your dreams and job and a hobby, eventually then the relationship will be rich. Because again, let's go back to what I said about, you're not a half, you're a whole, and you need to bring value to the table. And so you can't do either of those things if your partner is your everything. Sometimes we take for granted the people in our life and think, even if this relationship doesn't work, I can always go back and find those people. But unfortunately, people need to move on with their life. And so if you fall off of the earth because you have a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend, then you shouldn't think that people are going to wait around for you and your relationship to not work out so you can be friends with them or to engage with them. And your job is not going to wait around for you to give it enough time to work on it if your relationship doesn't work out. So you always have to make your partner a priority, but they shouldn't be your everything. The 9th myth about love and relationship is the very well-known phrase, they love me enough, they should know me very well, and I shouldn't say what I feel when I'm feeling down because they should know it for themselves. I think there's no communication there if someone says that. Listen, people can be together for years and years and not know what their significant other is thinking of, because it is not science fiction. You can't read other people's minds. You can try to predict, what could be wrong. They can have certain patterns that you can pick up on, and so you can ask them or know that there's something wrong, for example. But saying that, if someone loves me and they've been with me, then they should know what's wrong with me and I don't need to tell them, that creates even more problem, and that creates a gap between you and your partner, because you're not prioritizing communication, which is, again, one of the 3 vital things that I talked about in a sustainable, healthy, long-term relationship. So if you want to have a good relationship, you should just say it. Finally, the 10th myth about love and relationship is that opposites attract. Now, I know this is a huge debate, but I feel like to a certain point, yes, your partner has to be a little bit different than you, because you want a different perspective. You want someone who's a little bit different than you are to challenge you and to add more spice to your life. But it has to be to a certain extent. Because when we think about relationships long term, and even short term, by the way, we have to take into consideration so many factors, including values, morals, upbringing, tradition, and so on and so forth. So if you're lucky enough to be dating someone from the same culture as you, then that is a huge chunk of it is gone. But that also doesn't mean that it's guaranteed that your relationship would work, because even within similar cultures or religions or values, people can still have a lot of conflict with one another and how they view life. So if you have a partner that's completely opposite than you, then on the long term it might not actually work, because at the end of the day, no matter how understanding we are and accepting of our significant other or other people's opposing ideas of how to do life and how to see life, at some point, if, for example, you end up being with that person on the long run and you have kids and you want to bring up your kids, then if you have completely opposing ideas, it's not going to work out, because you'll be saying west, they'll be saying east. It's just not going to end well. So even if it doesn't go that long, but even right now, when you have too many things that are opposing each other, it usually doesn't work, because you're repelling. There's a lot of friction there, and that can cause a lot of fights as well. Yes, it's nice and it's good to have someone who's a little bit opposite of you, but I think that it's so important to have someone with at least the main core beliefs or upbringing or mentality that is a little bit closer to you, in order for love and relationship to be sustainable and to be on the long run. And with that, I'm done with the 10th episode. It's insane. We've reached 2-digit numbers in our episode numbers, so that's so exciting. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the thought of the... Oh, no.